Greetings gamers, I'm Gav. Welcome to another Path of Exile lore video. We've made it to the campaign finale, Act 10. Before we dive in, let's quickly recap Act 9. Traveling through the Blood Aqueducts, we reach Highgate. With the essences of the Godless Three now in the hands of Sin, it's time to finally remove the Dark Ember from the slain beast. We're tasked by Sin to retrieve Basilisk Acid as well as Charthan Powder, in order to burn a hole through the wounded flesh of the beast. To obtain the Basilisk Acid, we travel to the Boiling Lake. And for the Charthan Powder, we put down the now undead General Adis, who guards the refinery. Meeting Sin in the quarry, we burn a hole through this festering wound and enter the belly of the beast once more. Journeying through nightmarish creatures, we enter the Black Core. There we meet Sin, who uses the soul essences of Shavron, Maligaro, and Doedri in order to coax the Dark Ember out. The essences of these three created portals, one at each of the three hearts of the beast. We've entered inside each portal and slayed the corresponding student of Malachi. In so doing, the essences of the three are combined and they form the depraved trinity. We enter the black heart of the beast in order to face this abomination. After slaying this monstrous amalgamation, we're exhumed from the depths of the beast one last time, where we find Lily and Whalem docked on this small patch of land. They were looking for us in order to thank us for making their reunion possible when Whalem sensed us in this area, only to find us spat out from the beast's entrails. With the Dark Ember obtained and our eyes now set on Kitava, we set sail aboard the Black Crest towards home. Now docked beneath the Oriath Cathedral, and finally prepared to put an end to this ravenous god, we begin our final act. We speak with Lily Roth.
Well, once more, you owe me for letting you sail around on me ship. But that's okay, I'm the kind of gal who can play the long game. Sometime in the future, I'll be in need of your services once more. You can pay me back then. All right, come on, you got a job to do. Lives to save, gods to kill, better get to it.
She had this to say about Bannon.
That Bannon's a real siren if you ask me. Even after the beating is taken. Bulging muscles, pretty yellow hair. I'd be willing to bet the barrel of his piece is longer than a ship's mast as well, if you be understanding me drift. It's a shame in all honesty that he's one of them foolish holy men. Though even that ain't so bad. Lily Roth loves herself a challenge.
We ask her about Kitava.
Not much I can say about that raving monster. While he still breathes, it fares ill for all of us. There ain't no amount of ocean we can put between us and him that Kitava won't see as simply an extra jug of wine in his cup.
Whalem is standing beside Lily. He says,
"Welcome ye to Oriath. Smell that fresh land lubber air. Ain't nothing like the air in Theopolis, full of debauchery and pollution, hidden neath the garb of them holy Templars. Seems the place has changed a fair bit since last I were here. A lot more blood and entrails than what I remember. Well, best Lily and I stay here, where it be safe. You journey on ahead, matey, and see what blimey buggers you get to kill next. Say, you're not in the market for a new cutlass or anything, are you? Recently unlocked the Black Crest's old armory. Found a whole shitload of weaponry down there from another time. If you fancy it, be glad to show you my stock. See if there's anything in there you'd like to pick up."
He's infatuated with yet another potential woman friend, Lonnie, an old ally of ours from the Overseer's Tower.
Nah, there's a woman who can hold her own. Oh, hey, look at her. A marvellous specimen of the female persuasion. Reminds me of Meredith, me long-lost sweetheart. Oh, would it be that I could have a woman like that at my side once more? Someone to stare out over the bow into the salt spray of the sea with. Someone to warm the cockles of me heart. And a few other things in my bed at night. Oh, yeah. Now that'd be the dream.
We ask him his thoughts on Bannon.
Lousy, good-for-nothing blackguard. In all me years at sea, never have I ever serviced a filthy blackguard on my lovely ship. If the Brine King still drew breath, I tell you having this Bannon aboard would be an affront to the Lord of Salt and Scale. Him and his kind have hung, drawn and courted too many of ours. I don't rightly trust him. Not at all. Me thinks Lily is fixing to have her way with that damn blackguard. Well, I tell you, Not if I have anything to say about it. Look at me. Never thought I'd see the day when old Whalem were to be the prudish grandfather. Yet here we are. Damn conscience will be the death of me.
Next, we speak with Lonnie.
The prodigal returns. Have you brought with you a weapon to free us? The Ravenous one has only grown more hungry since you left us, and I fear your efforts may be too little, too late. Kitava has all but destroyed us here, and our poor departed Utula's cultists have taken hold of the city. There's little ground left to tread that won't cause the grasping claws of Hinekora to reach out and wring our pretty little necks. I see your eyes, Exile. You wonder why I am here instead of at the Overseer's Tower. I'll tell you the horrible truth. The tower has fallen to the infernal devices of Kitava. That witch, Violenta, is to blame. She lowered a secret ladder and led Kitava's cultists right to our very beds. Bannon and I barely escaped with our lives. Together, we cut through the hordes, but it was no use. They had us surrounded. Bannon created a distraction which allowed me to flee. When I last saw him, he was perched atop the rooftops, holding off our enemies, though how long he will last, I cannot say. If you are going that way, perhaps you can find him and return him to me. I have grown fond of that Templar. The fire of Namahu burns within his belly. It would not fare well for us in this war if that fire were lost.
We ask her more about Valenta's betrayal.
I believe Violenta was not of sound mind. At night, we often heard her cry out in sleep, fearing unseen things. I wanted to toss her out on the streets, let the beasts of this fallen city tend to her madness. But Bannon refused to leave behind one of his own. Would that he had listened to me. Violenta thought that if she gave us up to Kitava, the Ravenous one would look kindly upon her. Well, look upon her he did. But what he saw and what she became is the thing of nightmares. Her nightmares, perhaps.
She tells us her thoughts on Lily and Whalem.
In another life, perhaps Lily and I would have sailed the oceans together. I enjoy her presence and the conversation she brings. She has a call for adventure, coupled with a kind of optimism I rarely see. I hope that once all of this settles down, we might remain friends. I don't quite enjoy Whalem as much as I do his granddaughter, but Lily favors him, and so I will too, unless he does something truly horrid that forces me to revoke my opinion.
She takes notice of our new friend, Sen.
A dark angel on your shoulder, perhaps? In another time, the presence of this god would trouble me, perhaps even frighten me. But in these days, I cannot afford the sensation of surprise. If he's helped you this far, as you say, then one might expect he will help you all the way to the bitter end, and that is good enough for me.
Lonnie speaks more on Kitava and his cultists.
Before their god rose from the depths, Utula and his cultists had direction. They wished to see Kitava free to stage his horrifying banquet. I was foolish enough to believe these theological mumblings as symbols for Karui freedom. Now that their prophecies have come to fruition, the cultists have lost their minds. It's hard enough to believe the end times of your chosen religion will ever happen, let alone to last longer than the final pages of your holy book.
Sin is happy to see us.
It is good to see that you survived, my friend. But then, you have fared far worse. The froth of a violent ocean should be no problem for you. While we have been absent, Oriath has become a necropolis, a swarm of Kitava's wretched servants. The situation looks more dire than I had first anticipated. Before we make our move, we must know what we are dealing with. I send you, Exile, as a scout, as the only scout that would stand a chance moving through the shifting forms of this nightmare. You must discover where Kitava resides. Only then can we issue our final blow.
We ask him more about the Dark Ember.
You needn't fret. The Dark Ember is still safely in my possession, and will remain so until our final confrontation with Kitava. That carnivorous blasphemy will fall like a log cut from the darkest of forests, and we shall watch him burn, as Oriath and the rest of this world breathes a sigh of relief.
He tells us his thoughts on Lily.
Lily Roth is a noble... how do you say it? Scallywag? I have witnessed the rise and fall of many great men and women over the eons, and Lily is well on her way to being amongst the very best of them. I suspect one day her name shall be sung in salty taverns the world around. I must remember to keep on her good side, now that she can see me. The beautiful pirate princess hunting down the great god Sin would make for a fantastic tale, I'm sure. But one I would rather have remain in the pages of fiction.
We ask if there are any more gods for us to look out for.
Aside from my own presence, I no longer feel the vibrations of other gods. Though there may yet be more out there, for now, Rayclass can breathe a sigh of relief. However, we must turn our sights to Kitava, who still gorges himself on those poor souls trapped in Oriath. You have drunk your fill of my kind. The essence of deity courses through your veins, waiting to be expunged upon a chosen victim. We can only hope it will be strength enough to face that demoniac of a god.
Near Sin is a woman dressed in Templar garb, reading from a massive tome. As we pass by, she looks up from her book and calls us over.
This is an absolute disaster. I am Divinia, Adjunct Archivist of the Templar Order. I've returned to Oriath to perform some critical research, but the whole city is in chaos. I've heard the people here talking about you. Now, if you're going into that madness, I have a favor to ask of you. Most of the Templar's secret archives have probably been looted or burned by now, but there's one trove only the Master Archivist and I knew about. It's hidden within my Order's Ossuary. Now, if you can, please go there and search for a particular tome. It's called the Mortonomicon, and supposedly contains everything the Templars know about immortality. I know you're dealing with Kitava and his cultists, but this may be just as important in the long run.
We asked Divinia more about the Mortonomicon.
The Mortonomicon Exitio Immortalis, as its lengthy name implies, is quite the difficult read. As a layer of extra security, it was written in the ancient language of the newcomers that were instrumental in the founding of our religion. Very few people can speak it, let alone read it. I'm deciphering the language at the same time that I'm translating and researching. It's mentally taxing to the extreme, but I have no choice but to soldier on.
We ask her thoughts on Sin.
You can see him too. I thought I was hallucinating. Wait, you're working with him. Do you know who that is? He's the original evil. I won't have anything to do with a monster like him.
She had this to say about Oriath's destruction.
It's all on fire. It's absolute madness. My heart aches for what they've done to my home, but I have a duty to perform, or else a worse terror than this might descend upon the entire world.
Divinia says this about Lonnie.
I don't know her very well, but she seems very determined. I hope she survives all this.
We ask her what she thinks of Lily and Waylem Roth.
Have you seen their little black cat? I know Oriath is in chaos, but I can't help but feel my spirits lift when I see how cute and unafraid it is. Everything's gonna be all right. I just know it.
She speaks of a people called the Newcomers.
In all my research, and believe me, I've done more than most, I've still never been able to figure out who the Newcomers truly were. They learned our language, but theirs has been mostly lost over thousands of years. It has a completely different grammatical structure too, so translating it is a slow and difficult task. If only I could find that elusive shrine.
We accept Divinia's quest to locate the ancient tome held somewhere within the ossuary. We hurry up the ladder to the cathedral apex where Lonnie said she last saw Bannon. Cultists of Kitava defend their captured prize, Bannon, and most importantly, the god within him, Innocence. As we approach, he says,
"You there! Exile! I am in need of your services once more. Help me!"
After clearing them all out, we speak with a wounded Bannon.
Phew. I would thank God for you, my friend, if that weren't too on the nose. I felt for sure that this time it was my turn to depart our world. Kitava's cultists surrounded Lani and I a while back. We split up and I led a distraction so she could make best her escape. Funny, I really should have considered my own plan for evasion once I'd allowed her hers. In any case, it is good to see you again, Exile. Let us talk more in a safer space. I shall meet you back at the docks.
We'll meet him back at the docks in just a bit. First, we clear out the remainder of these rooftops on our way east. Through Kitava's zealots, heralds, and other followers, we make our way to the scaffolding far to the east, and descend into Oriath's now ravaged square.
It's time to end this.
The hounds and enforcers who survived are now loyal to the Ravenous one. We fight past various followers of Kitava and make our way south. Here we step inside the control blocks to search for Valenta in Piety's old laboratory. Experiments of Valenta, as well as more enforcers, hounds, and slaves, all stand in our path through these blocks. Finally, we arrive in Piety's old laboratory, where Valenta has set up shop. We step inside to find the twisted and deformed monster that Kitava has turned her into. She's now some kind of winged creature. As we attack, she's energized by pylons stationed around the room, and flies away to recover. Suddenly, her undead experiments jump down from the corpses piled high above us. We defend ourselves against this onslaught, and as Valenta returns to attack, we strike her down before she can flee again. With Valenta slain, we return to the Ravaged Square and enter the Reliquary to the northeast. Through the undead archivists, reliquarians, and spirits that we fought here once before, we circle the entire reliquary and find an artifact that we overlooked before. Contained within a pearl case is a massive jeweled teardrop. We're not sure who might be interested in such an item, but it has to be valuable. We exit back out into the square. Making our way through more enforcers, hounds, cultists, and Templar heretics that now follow Kitava, we locate a book sitting on what appears to be some kind of makeshift altar. It reads, "Relish hunger, dear faithful, for hunger is the one true statue of spiritual abundance. When one is hungry, they desire more, and therefore align themselves with the will of the mighty Kitava. Beware, my followers, of the satisfied man, for he is the very pattern and image of blasphemy." It's titled The Holy Book of Hunger, and was written by the High Priest of Kitava, Utula. Further north, we locate the entrance to the Ossuary and step inside. The ancient Ossuary of Oriath is now overrun with the risen dead. We fight through skeletons, husks, and the souls of paupers. To the northeast, we find one of the final trials of ascendancy. The bronze monograph reads,
"A leader cannot simply stride forward into the future and expect his people to be able to follow. A leader must look over his shoulder so that he can witness and understand the consequences of the path he has chosen, to ensure that his people are still with him, to ensure that he has not become lost."
We enter the trial to find narrow, fenced-in paths that we must traverse, with devices shooting poison darts in a pattern down each pathway. Dodging the darts and making our way through this trial, we reach the plaque at the end.
"An emperor must know precisely where he stands."
Taking the portal back to the beginning of the trial, we continue exploring the remainder of the ossuary. In the southeast corner, we located an ancient sealed chest. Inside was the elixir of allure. I'm sure Waylem would be interested in getting his hands on this concoction. Finally, in a small archive housed within this ossuary, we locate the Mortonomicon Exitio Immortalis that Divinia spoke of. It was sitting among a pile of other heretical tomes. We portal back to the docks to inform our allies of our progress. We show Lily the teardrop artifact that we found within the reliquary.
Exile, you're a giant among men. You got no idea how long I have yearned to have this beauty once more in my hands. The teardrop is surprisingly still in pretty good condition. Not too typical of the baubles them Templars like to steal. We'll stick around a while longer, but once things settle down, my grandfather and I will be setting sail with Soatha firm in our sights.
It's apparently a map to Soatha, and something her and Waylem have been after for some time. Waylem does indeed seem intrigued by the elixir of allure.
"Ya found it! Bless your boots, Exile! Me lady problems will be over at last. Let's give it a go then. I feel nothing. Blast it all to the ocean depths. Ruined. All them years sitting around in that damned ossuary, the love's magic fizzled right out of the damn thing. Oh well, can't blame a man for trying. Anyway, here's a little something for your effort.
We speak to Lonnie about Bannon and our slaying of Valenta.
Bannon is alive and well. In no small way thanks to you, I would be willing to guess. Without him being here, I would have lost my sanity or my life a long time ago. Take this gift as a token of both our appreciation. You return from your hunt triumphant. Then Valenta is dead. I wish I could say that a celebration is in order, but in our current existence, I've had all I can stomach of banquets and feasts. Here.
Bannon is thankful and happy to see us, and he has insights on how to possibly reach Kitava.
Ah, good to see you made it back. You look at me with suspicious eyes. Yes, I know you have your apprehensions about me, and my new indwelling spirit. But if it helps a little, I feel innocence stirring inside me, awakening with an odd sense of gratitude towards you. It was, after all, your bite that returned him to humility, allowed the scales to drop from his eyes. If you are to go wandering the city in its current state, be careful where you step. Kitava's cultists are constantly on the prowl, actively seeking food for their god. What's worse, the passage to Kitava's feast is blocked off by two large black gates. We call them Kitava's horns, and they are utterly impenetrable to the motions of man. There is but one way in which we can reach Kitava and deprive him of his eternal meal. The staff of Avarius lies somewhere amongst the rubble of the Chamber of Innocence, still billowing with holy power. If you were to find it and return it to me, I believe the power in the staff will act as power enough to break through the horned gates.
He tells us more about Kitava.
While they had me trapped, I heard those cultists' mad gibberings. Their words were akin to that of the Ray-classed cannibals, nonsensical sentences accompanied by the most unsettling of cackles. I fear that they have indulged too deeply into Kitava's famed habit and caught the laughing plague that so often accompanies men and women who choose to engage in the consumption of human flesh. As I'm sure you've noticed, that damnable god Kitava no longer resides on the rooftops, as last you were here. No. The monster has acclimatized himself to Theopolis. He has set up quite the banqueting table for himself. It appears he believes he has a lot of consumption to catch up on. Best I can tell, his new residence lies through the ravaged Oriath Square and past the Canals, now the Feeding Troughs. Heed my warning, friend. Tread lightly through that area, for those cultists are out and about once more, actively seeking food for Kitava to devour.
We ask more about Innocence.
I wouldn't blame you for being curious about the god now dwelling within me. In truth, I'm honored to have been chosen to be Innocence's vessel. You may hear this and think I sound like a pious Templar fool, but it is hard to remain an unbeliever when the gods walk around you, and indeed one sleeps inside you. No need to fear, however. Our poor purity god surely regrets the actions of his past. I can't see him, but I can feel his spirit, wounded and cowering somewhere inside me. At night, I hear him whimpering over his wounds. I must say you hurt him good. But as much as I feel his pain, I also feel a budding newness in his heart. He is growing again, and relearning the compassion for humanity that he had long since lost.
Bannon can no longer enter the Chamber of Innocence. It's up to us.
The Chamber of Innocence is exactly where you left it, though cultists and vandals may have had their way with it since last you visited. Innocence himself no longer cares for the place. In fact, I feel a pained revulsion for it, hence why I cannot go myself. But I'm certain you are more than capable of forging a path through that broken temple once again.
He informs us further on the Horns of Kitava that we must get through in order to reach the god.
Back when the cultists took control of the city, the very ground itself shook, as if pained by some dark abomination. The gnarled horns of Kitava erupted from the earth like spiraling pillars of corruption, weaving together a barrier impeding travelers from moving through the city.
Sin overheard our entire conversation.
Then it is as I feared. Kitava's strength has grown insurmountable in our absence, and his horns now deny us entry to his feeding trough. Evidently, the hungry god has grown picky about what crumbs now travel towards his burgeoning throat. It is this strength that concerns me. I have spoken with our friend Bannon over there, a willful vessel of my misguided brother. I knew eventually we would need to enlist my brother's services, though I had hoped we need not do so this soon. Yet, it seems that we have no other choice. We must invoke my dormant brother, slumbering within Bannon's frame. Kitava's horns are a thing of great corruption, which only Innocence's purity can dispel. Before we proceed, I feel I must confide something in you. Bannon wishes me not to speak of it, as he is willing for the sacrifice. However, I feel you should know. Once we invoke Innocence, once we dredge him up from his cocoon inside the soul of Bannon, the man shall cease to be. Only the god shall remain. Do you understand what I say, Exile? If we take this path, Bannon will die. Excruciatingly so. Burnt with purity from the inside out. As I said, Bannon is willing to commit his life to this cause. But perhaps you should say your farewells before we move past the point of no return.
Well, that's grim. We hand the ancient tome that we retrieved over to Davinia.
You actually found it! I can't believe I'm holding in my very own hands the Mortonomicon Exitio Immortalis. You really are as capable as I've heard. If you're willing, I'm in dire need of further assistance. With this book, I might just be able to make some headway dealing with a very ancient problem. There's a certain forbidden sanctum I'd like to show you, hidden under the ruins of Fel's Shrine for untold centuries. Meet me there, when you can. Believe me, this dangerous enigma isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, that's the whole problem with immortality.
We'll visit this forbidden sanctum another time. For now, we still have a giant mess to clean up. Returning to the Ravaged Square past Kitava's horns, we travel north and enter the Torched Courts. Through what were once the Templar Courts, we fight our way past the multitude of Kitava's cultists and Templar heretics, with our eyes set on the reanimated Avarius in order to retrieve the Staff of Purity. We step inside what were once Innocence's chambers. These chambers have been completely ruined. Every statue, stained glass window, or holy symbol has been tainted with the mark of Kitava by his followers. Not a single shred of divinity remains in these halls. We fight past more Templar heretics and worshippers of Kitava. Clearing out the entirety of these chambers, we locate another cultist tract. It reads, "And our father, the great Kitava, will split asunder the rocks of the earth, pulling himself out of the miry clay. He shall lay a banquet table before us, and we shall feast on his divine bounty." Yet another passage from Mutula's Holy Book of Hunger. We locate the entrance to the Sanctum of Innocence. Here we find a reanimated corpse of Avarius, holding the Staff of Purity. Corpses and marks of Kitava now cover what was once a holy chamber. We face Avarius, dodging his unholy blows with this mighty staff. We defeat the reassembled High Templar and retrieve Innocence's staff.
I'm getting really tired of grudge matches.
We waypoint back to the Oriath Docks. We speak with Bannon.
I fear I have not been entirely honest with you, my friend. While it is true that this staff can forge a path for us through Kitava's horns, it has the ability to revitalize Innocence into waking fully. And that is where the staff's true power resides. In this act, I will become his host in the fullest sense. And together, he and his brother Sin will be able to ally with you against the forces of darkness. I bid you farewell, Exile, for where my spirit is set to travel, there is no return. Win this battle. Defeat Kitava. Free our people.
As Banon makes the ultimate sacrifice for his god and all of Oriath, innocence emerges from his body, and Banon is no more. We speak with innocence.
I am reborn, a new god in a troubled land.
Brother, you have seen better days, I am sure, but for now you must rouse yourself. We have work to do. If ever you wish to make right the wrongs of your past, help me now. As once I asked you in the early days of mankind, do this for me, and I shall consider our quarrel to be at its end.
Go, do battle, anointed Exile. Though my brother and I will aid you, I sense the universe conspires for you to be the savior of our world on this day.
Lonnie, who witnessed the whole thing, had this to say.
Banon was a man whom I greatly admired, possibly even loved. My heart is grieved to see him depart from us and journey to the home of Hinekora. Yet, he sacrificed himself so that we might live, and stood true to his convictions. This god, this born-again innocence, fills me with unease. Though he appears repentant of his past transgressions, I do not believe he should be forgiven, nor that he should tread this earth any longer than is required.
We waypoint back to the Ravaged Square. Here we meet innocents outside the horns of Kitava.
Bone and corruption shall not impede the path of purity.
He channels his divinity into the staff and purges the corruption of Kitava's horns. The horns split open, allowing access to the canals. We step inside.
I don't suppose there's time to convince innocents to put some clothes on for this battle.
One step closer to tracking down Kitava, we fight past another countless number of his cultists and followers. Traveling over bridges and making our way through these winding canals, we reach a square containing another cultist tract, a third passage from Kitava's High Priest Utula and his Holy Book of Hunger. It reads, "This is how it shall end. Kitava will rise, and a great cloud of black smoke will cover the sky. The glorious smell of cooking flesh shall entice even the most ardent of unbelievers to the faith, and together we will celebrate and eat at Kitava's table." Reaching the end of these canals, we find our final path to this ravenous god, the Feeding Trough. This canal leading to Kitava is filled with the remains of his feast. Corpses, blood, and viscera line the canal. I cleared out the entirety of this area and found no lore or anything else of significance. Far to the northwest, at the end of the trough, we meet Innocence and Sin, waiting for us beneath Kitava's altar. We speak with Sin.
This is it. It all comes down to this moment to finally put an end to Kitava. Go, Exile. Together we will save humankind.
We ascend the ladders leading up to Kitava. The massive god stands to meet us.
I shall strike you down.
We outmaneuver Kitava as he tries to flick us like a fly. After getting some clean strikes in, Sin and Innocence blast the ravenous god with their unholy and divine energies combined. The blast rips open the chest of Kitava and reveals his heart. We hack at this massive beating heart before Kitava reaches for it and scoops it back inside of his chest. He grabs Sin like he's a simple plaything, and we attack the massive god until he releases our friend. Continuing to dodge Kitava's unholy assault and swipes at us, we manage to free Sin, and both him and Innocence weaken Kitava once more. The heart of the god sits before us, and we sink our axe deep into its flesh. Reeling, the god scoops his heart back inside of him one last time. After one last bout, Kitava's heart is spilled onto the floor once more.
May a new dawn arise.
Combined with the blast from Sin and Innocence, we destroy the heart and defeat Kitava, the insatiable god. It's finally over. We speak with Sin.
It's over. We emerge victorious. It was always a fool's errand, yet somehow your courage has carried us through. I congratulate you, my friend. Your world may have exiled you, but there will always be a place for you at my table. You have given humanity a fighting chance. Though darkness still covers the face of the earth, there is now a ray of light to pierce it. The insatiable appetite of Kitava has been ruined, and you are no exile. Why, you are a hero worthy of praise. May your legend live on into eternity. Come, let us return to the others. They will be needing as many hands as possible for cleaning up this city.
He opens a portal back to the Oriath Docks. We speak with Lily.
By the high seas, you actually did it! You won a duel for the ages against Kitava himself. Sailors will be singing shanties about your victory for generations to come. But if I've learned anything from you, duelist, it's best to leave them wanting more. Let's find you a flagon of ale and a fresh start. Leave the rebuilding to those better suited than scoundrels like us.
She's not too happy that Bannon's gone.
Oh, Bannon. I'd stake my bets on being a mighty fine demon in the sack. Can't go wrong with a man in uniform. Only now, he's gone and transformed into that pesky god of light. I gotta believe that the man is still in there somewhere, but finding my way into his bedsheets at this stage is proving more difficult than I first thought. Don't seem to be anything that'll budge him from wherever he's hiding. Not even an enrapturing roll in the hay with this future pirate queen. Seems to me that by letting old innocence take him over completely, it's like a leech sucking the life right out of him. He's gonna lose out on all them lusty joys of this world, and that ain't something I'd ever think fondly about.
Whalem is happy that it's all over.
Thank the sea! That bloody sod is gone from our world. Can't tell you how many times I've heard them Karui savages gibbering in fear over that cannibal god. And of course there's all this horror to account for as well. I don't think there's a man, woman, or child in the world that won't be praising your name tonight over a glass of their finest grog. Speaking of which, where's a man to go to find a little fire water around these parts?
We speak with Lonnie.
By the light of Ramako, you did it. You, a mortal, have crossed the threshold between God and man and struck the Ravenous one asunder. I'd always held out hope that you would succeed, but at night I would stay awake worrying that perhaps that hope was a foolish dream. But you've done it. You are no longer an exile, my friend. I honor you, and I'm certain the rest of the world will honor you as well.
As we approach the two, we hear Sen speaking to his brother.
Innocence. You see now, don't you?
Little brother, please forgive me. It's as if I have been dreaming the most horrid nightmare. And now, at last, the haze of sleep lifts from my eyes. My vision is clear. Oh, by the gods, forgive me.
It is as true now as it was when we began. You and I are of the same flesh, cleaved from the same womb. You ask for my forgiveness. I give it to you freely.
But the things I've done, the countless millions I've murdered.
There will be time for all of that later. But for now, your people need you. Oriath needs you.
No, I cannot remain here amongst these ruins, amongst the corpses of my own making. These people, they need you, brother, and your hero, not me.
Then what? Where will you go? What will you do?
Isolation. I shall go south, as far south as one can travel in such a fleshly form. There are things I must think on, the redemption I need plan, if my conscience decides I am worthy of such a gift.
You would seek forgiveness in the ice at the bottom of the world.
I would, should you let me.
Go. Seek out that which you need. Find who you are. Make pilgrimage. Journey on your path, brother. Only return to us one day.
Thank you, brother.
We speak with innocence.
You have heard my admission of guilt and my plea for forgiveness. Yet I sense in the glowing embers of your eyes that you will be glad to be rid of me. I don't blame you, mortal. Nor do I begrudge you for your continual anger. The sins I've committed, although bad enough, are made worse by the lens of pride I once viewed this world through. I agree with your judgment. And though I wish never to return from my banishment, I have made a promise to sin that I shall one day rejoin this world. But until that day, I will remain in the furthest south, in a place of ice and ash, of blistering seas and abysmal storms. I shall meditate on my wrongdoings, until a way of making amends to the millions of lives I have murdered and ruined reveals itself to me.
And that's the conclusion of Act 10, as well as the Path of Exile campaign. There is, however, still more dialogue within the epilogue of this story, where we're led into the endgame, as well as maps in the Atlas. From what I can tell, this epilogue follows the events that took place after rebuilding Oriath. I'll have a link to a video in the description, from the Path of Exile lore queen herself, Kitten Cat Noodle. In it, she goes over all of the lore contained within the Conquerors of the Atlas expansion, which was released in 2019. I highly recommend checking that out, especially if you're interested in how GGG continued the story originally. Some of the dialogue may be somewhat out of context, but as a true documentarian, I had to include it in this series to wrap up Path of Exile 1's campaign lore. So, as a TLDR, the events that took place within the Conquerors of the Atlas sees Oriath destroyed by Cyrus. We and the other survivors flee the city, and in true exile fashion, we find ourselves lying in the sand, washed ashore, this time along the Karui shoreline. We request Lily's aid once more, and she sails us away from Oriath.
Exile. Exile, wake up.
Waiting for us to awake is Helena.
Commander Kirac has requested your presence in the war room.
Realizing we never asked before, we inquire on her past and how she joined the Ebony Legion.
I was no wonder child back in Oriath, but I prided myself on what junior accomplishments I managed to put together within the strict set of allowed sciences. Archaeology was my specialty, and Dominus and his ilk had an uncommon fascination with artifacts from the past. And I was told I was crucial, that I was important, because I could tell whether an artifact was truly Vaal simply by running my hand along faded stone patterns. I may have had a head slightly too big for my shoulders. When the Ebony Legion made available an archaeologist position on their expedition to Rayclast, and nobody volunteered, I thought my colleagues were all simply afraid of continental dangers. No, they knew better. None were allowed to speak it openly, but they knew. I didn't find out what kind of society I was truly a part of until I saw Piety's aspirations. I studied the Vaal. I knew all about their downfall, or at least our Templar-twisted perception of it. Piety's ocean of slaughter. The Vaal called their hubris the apex of sacrifice. The Eternal Empire called theirs the Purity Rebellion. We call ours the Temple of Lunaris. And I know nothing, Exile. Nothing at all. Save that we are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past unless we learn the hard way.
She reminisces on the defeat of Kitava.
It's hard to believe it's been a full year since you slew Kitava. This place is almost starting to feel like home. I left behind a piece of my heart in Oriath, even though I know we can never return there. Too many terrible things took place on that island. I think I agree with the popular sentiment that it was somehow cursed.
We ask more about the curse of Oriath.
When I really think on it, Oriath's suffering was almost entirely the fault of its people. Not the common folk, mind you. The ones with the power. The Templars fostered a society in which monsters, like Dominus and Piety, could not only rise to power, but then wield that power to harm all of Rayclast. Enslaving the Karui directly led to the cult of Kitava unleashing mayhem. And of course, the tyranny of innocence stemmed from the blind, zealous faith they gave him. Then, there was the whole business with Cyrus.
That was the final nail in the coffin for Oriath. We might have been able to rebuild things after Kitava's rampage, if not for the surprise attack by Cyrus. Kirac was a lesser officer in the Vanguard then, and had to work with exiles and radicals in strange exotic realms to try to control the situation. But Cyrus was far too dangerous to be contained. I'm not sure even you could have stopped him, had you been there. I don't know exactly how they won the day, because Kirac never talks about it. But I do know a great many people died.
We ask about her new role in this Vanguard.
Serving under Kirac in the Citizen Vanguard this past year has certainly been rewarding. This is a nobler cause by far than aiding the blackguards. I don't know if piety's atrocities can ever truly be made right, but I will keep trying until the day I die. We are the people's response to the madness of Rayclast. We've had enough of corruption, gods, and would-be dictators. The last year or so, the Citizen Vanguard has embarked upon a celestial war in secret, in a realm called the Atlas, and we've lost many valiant men in battle. We need all the soldiers we can get, so it's time for you to put your strength and wits to good use.
Continuing along the shoreline, we find another familiar face, Lily Roth.
I should have never come back here. That Kirac is a mighty convincing salesman. I spent so much of my life voyaging across the briny deep, looting and pillaging. I never thought I'd end up working as a naval officer for the Citizen Vanguard. They're forgiving my pirating crimes in exchange for helping to build this town, as well as providing trade and transport. It'll be a quiet life, but rewarding in its own way. I'd rather be a seafarer than a foot soldier.
Through a tunnel lined with explosives, we find the fortified structure that houses the Citizens Vanguard. There we find the beast of a man that Helena told us to speak with.
Kirac's my name. Commander of the Citizen Vanguard. We're the front line, ensuring callous gods and bloodthirsty fiends never blindside us again. The Templars kept the true nature of the world hidden from the populace, but now the rower's out of the sack, and we'll keep both eyes open. Or the one eye open, in my case. We've a vital mission for you, Godslayer. But you're not going to believe me until you see this for yourself. Take this map and put it in one of the map devices below. It will take you to a realm we call the Atlas. Once you see the world on the other side and have yourself a battle or two, we'll talk.
From Kirac we receive a garden's map. He warns us of a coming darkness.
Quite a bit has happened in the Atlas already. Suffice it to say, we have it on ominous authority that some unknown they are coming. Judging by the one who gave us that warning, all of Rayclast would be in jeopardy should they take notice of us. It's best for everyone if we draw a hard line in the sand across the Atlas and keep them busy there instead.
We ask more about the Citizen Vanguard.
Families. These courageous men and women have families. That's the difference between them and a traditional military. No disrespect to my old comrades in arms, but this organization is not comprised of solitary, violent-minded young men. The Citizen Vanguard is a volunteer effort filled with the ranks of ordinary people who are tired of the endless parade of doom and nightmare we call Rayclast. I said we'd all have to work together to face what's coming. And that's exactly what we're doing.
He continues telling us of this other realm called the Atlas.
The Atlas is a grave threat to mankind. A realm unlike any we've seen. It offers up your wildest desires, urging you ever onward into madness and danger, and yet, it may be our greatest defense as well. The Atlas draws the attention of eldritch creatures that would otherwise destroy us without a second thought. It's too dangerous to interact with, but too valuable to be left alone. You can see the position that leaves us in. We used to have the Atlas fully mapped, but it changes, it grows. After recent major events, it completely changed form. We started from scratch at a moment we can ill afford to be blinded. The more you explore the Atlas, the better our chances of survival. The map device will transport you to a land unlike any other. We call that land the Atlas, a formidable, uncharted territory which harbors the greatest dangers man has ever seen. The device itself, or the devices, rather, since we've managed to acquire 3, have a rather long and storied history. As our resident archaeologist, Helena, might know more about that kind of thing.
We ask him about Oriath.
It's clear our little island is no place for men to live. Even cursed, one could say. Though we are not entirely blameless for those disasters, we thought Kitava's rampage was bad enough. Let alone the domination by the Templars and the crackdown under innocents. But Oriath was attacked yet again while you were gone. The rebuilding efforts were all for nothing. The Vanguard undertook the largest evacuation in history, hundreds of ships, and Oriath has been abandoned. No small irony that the Oriathan people now depend upon the Karui we once enslaved. I always said that if you kick a rower in the butt, one day it'll kick you in the head. But I underestimated the honor of our new hosts. They're different after the death of their gods, and we are too after the departure of ours. I wasn't a believer, but I can feel it. We're on our own. We're going to have to work together to face what comes next.
Kirac speaks about Helena.
I once swore I'd never trust a blackguard in my life, reformed or not. I've had to begrudgingly rethink that notion. Helen has been crucial in putting together the pieces of Rayclass' ominous and ancient history. Everything we face today has its roots in the evils of the past.
Now that we're slightly filled in, we speak with Helena once again, who tells us more about the map device.
History, as I was taught it in Oriath, seems very skewed now. There were a great many events that were hidden from the public eye, and the use of map devices throughout the ages was one of those secrets. We know Malagaro experimented with one. There was also a map device in the possession of the Templars, though they did not know what they had. As far as we know, map devices can open portals to almost anywhere, even locations not of this world. We generally use it to enter the Atlas, although some of the exiles we worked with traveled to the domains of the Breach Lords. Those exiles were never heard from again, of course, but the portals worked.
She seems hopeful about the Citizen Vanguard and what's been established here.
I can't help but feel a sense of hope that the people we have gathered are part of something greater. We're all utterly different, but something has brought us together, here and now. Alva with her blood thaumaturgy, Tane with his dark science, Einhar with his natural wisdom, Nico with his machinery skills, Jun with her combat prowess. Kirac's leadership and your strength make me confident that we can handle whatever the future brings.
Descending the stairs here, we find the 3 map devices that Kirac spoke of. Placing our garden's map into the device reveals 6 portals to this dream world, called the Atlas, much like when we entered Malagaro's domain.
Like stepping into a dream.
Other than a mild haze that drifts through the air here, this place feels as real as the ground beneath our feet just moments ago. Clearing out the entirety of this location, we exit through the use of a portal scroll and return to the Karui shores. We speak with Kirac.
Now that you've had a glimpse of the Atlas, our mission might make more sense. There's a whole uncharted realm out there, countless regions just like the one you explored, full of strange creatures and ancient threats. Nobody knows exactly what the Atlas is, but I can tell you my personal experience: danger, death, and loss. We've been doing our best to explore its deeper reaches, but too many good men have died. We're out of our depth. That's why we need you. Keep exploring the Atlas. Look for anything we can use to defend Rayclass. Believe me, we're going to need it against the coming darkness.
And that'll wrap up this episode and the series, Exiles. We've now covered the lore all the way from washing ashore Rayclass for the first time as an exile, to now washing ashore the Karui shores as a famed godslayer. We completed our first map and found our next threat, the cosmic and eldritch beings drawn to our realm through the Atlas. We must map out the ever-changing, ever-growing Atlas and protect our reality. I want to thank you all so much for all the kind words that I've received since joining the Path of Exile community. Completing this series and at this pace was a complete labor of love. And although Path of Exile 2 is still a few weeks away following the delay, my excitement for it continues to be at an all-time high after covering the lore of the first game. Over the next few weeks leading up to PoE 2, I'll have more weekly lore videos. Going over the flavor text of some items within Path of Exile 1, we'll dive deep into the stories and insights that those provide. As always, like the video if you liked it, subscribe for more content out of me, and I'll see you all in my next video. Farewell.